sometimes less is more. And I would even be bullish enough to say that more often than not, usually less is more. It's funny how sometimes you might have certain ideas or plans, and if you set out to achieve those things, sharing with fewer people, then you find you have fewer obstacles in the way of those things. And a lot of this has to do with certain envious characters or certain characters that have certain controlling traits about themselves, where just the idea of you succeeding can really drive them off the walls. When you have narcissists in your life or other people with pathological envy or other toxic traits, kind of like wanting to keep you dependent on them, wanting to keep you submissive to them, maybe control you. Those people, those people who have a lot of negative traits, they, in a way, they're constantly in this kind of confused state because when you're trying to show the world that you're one thing, but inside in your own mind you're something else. And what I mean by that is the most toxic people tend to put on this facade of charm, of do-gooder, of altruism. But deep down, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of envy, there's a lot of low self-esteem. And that difference, that discrepancy in them, it causes a lot of confusion. It's a very kind of confusing energy. It can easily create dissonance. It can create dissonance in other people when other people become too exposed to them and they allow them the opportunity to either give advice, give their opinion, or even just kind of stare at the person as the person's talking to them and have this kind of thought energetic response. Either way, narcissists, toxic people, envious people, they're very good at funneling their confused state towards a target with this implicit objective of trying to get the person to be sabotaged on the way of achieving their goals, achieving the things that interest them, achieving those things that give them fulfillment. And that's why sometimes the fewer the people who have the ability to sabotage you, to discourage you, to take you off your path, the better, because obviously you co-create with a lot of people. A lot of things you do in your life, you co-create. If you want a child, it takes two to have a baby. If you want to raise a child with another parent, it takes two to raise a child. If you want to get a good promotion at work, you have to keep a lot of people happy, a lot of clients happy, a lot of people in your company happy, making a lot of money. So there is a lot of co-creation and there is a lot of sharing of joint efforts. But unless the person who you're sharing your things with, your plans with, your endeavors with, unless they're part of that co-creative process, you should be very hesitant before you share too much. And maybe this doesn't apply if you have a family member, for example, who's like your best friend. Maybe it's a parent, a sibling, or maybe you have a non-family best friend. Or maybe you're sharing something with a child, somebody maybe who's clearly not there to cause you to fail. But otherwise, if you have things that are in process and you just want to go out and just do your thing, live your purpose if you would, live your dream if you would, then you don't want people throwing confusion in your equation. Because a lot of people, they get a sense of fulfillment by doing that. They get a sense of fulfillment by making you wobble, so to speak, by making you lose the courage to take the stride in the direction that is your calling. And that's a thing that not everyone has, but if you do have it, it's a real blessing. And that's a calling. And you can have many kind of callings in life. Maybe you dream of buying a certain house or something, or you have a house, but you dream on getting it into a certain shape, do works on it, where you'll feel comfortable in it. Or maybe you dream of having a certain job or position, or starting a certain side business, or having a certain lifestyle. And if you focus on those things with enough clarity, and if you focus on those things with enough positive intent, you know, the pieces will fall in place that will allow you to achieve it. Sometimes you want to do something, but you don't have the money. Then all of a sudden, $100,000 or whatever somehow surfaces from one day to the next on top of your other income. And sometimes that's just what you need to make your dreams work. Or you feel like you want to do something or reach a certain place, but you don't know what the next step is. Then somebody surfaces in your life who just happens to be the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. And unless you're a clear-minded, forward-thinking, positive-leaning person, you don't sometimes recognize these blessing in disguises for what they really are. But you see, positive coincidences, perfect timing, just being in the right place at the right time, saying the right thing to the right person at the right time. All of these subtleties are what make or break someone when it comes to achieving the big things in life. And when you have certain people in your life that emit too much negativity, too much confusion, and you feel sort of drained, it's almost like you're carrying their weight, their heaviness, then you lose that kind of foresight, that perception, which are those pieces falling into place to take you to the place that you previously thought was impossible. But actually, it's the most logical next step if you just believe and see the bridge when it comes. And that's the thing when it comes to trying to achieve anything great. And this is where so many people live lives of mediocrity, and they don't understand why. It's because if you set your mind right, you have a certain belief system. You have that clean internal energy. A ship will sail by, which is the vessel to kind of take you there. But it takes time. There's a whole gestation process for that ship to come by, pick you up, and go. It's kind of like having a baby. You plant the seed, it takes 9 months for the baby to come. I'm not saying every big plan you make, I'm not saying that every plan takes 9 months for the opportunity to take you there to surface, but it's kind of like, that's the idea, that's the analogy. But people who try to keep you confused, people who try to keep you off your path, if they can project enough energy on you, and more importantly, if you give them enough airtime, such that they're draining you and inducing confusion in you sufficiently, such that you can't see these vessels, so to speak, these opportunities, then you're living a life of mediocrity compared to your potential. And they're feeling good because they're not feeling left behind. And that's what so many toxic people struggle with. They don't like feeling left behind by people who can do things that they don't really know how to do. A lot of people are just barely keeping their head above water, so to speak, surviving, and watching somebody else who's sailing, having fun, having a destination and knowing how to bridge the gap of where they are to reaching that destination. It can cause those people out of anguish. So they only keep people in their lives they can keep down. If you're the kind of person, you can keep your head held up high with clarity, perception, belief, self-belief, and forward movement. Of course, you can't keep those people in your experience. Thanks for watching.